You might think it's ridiculous to talk about paint colors when a building has holes in the roof. But I'm an architect.
Is this for the men?
Yep.
So pee in the ground or?
Pee against the wall
And I know that if you want to save a ruin, you have to start with the dream, not just the damage. In this video, we're diving into the design heart of Eskilstrup Kulturhus, from the secretive limewashed stencil paintings hidden in the Great Hall that echo the murals of Danish village churches, to the fragments of 30s, 60s, and 70s wallpaper layered like geological strata on the walls. We'll also be talking about the historical Danish interior relevance of the color blue, and why it matters for a very specific future function of the space. Yes, the building still smells like mildew and regret, but behind every water-damaged brick, there's a story worth preserving. And these design decisions, I promise you, they're not frivolous. They're strategic. Because the earlier we define the soul of the space, the stronger our renovation roadmap becomes. Before we dive deep into things, I have just a tiny little bit of housekeeping. Jeg kan godt se, at mange af jer er fra Danmark, så jeg har prøvet at lave det første afsnit på dansk. Det betyder også, at du kommer til at høre min lidt mærkelige accent. Så hvis du har lyst, må du meget gerne hoppe derover og følge med. Og fortæl mig endelig, hvad du synes kunne være fedt at lave på dansk.
Jeg kunne bare mærke, at det her er en særlig bygning. Det er en af de ting, vi har fandt inde i huset. Der findes detaljer overalt. Der findes noget virkelig flot håndværk. Så det er en primær maling måske fra 1908. Det betyder, at der har været virkelig noget kærlighed i det her bygning.
Let's go back to the Great Hall, back when it was trashed and I was touring it for the first time. Now, I know it might seem like there's a million things to notice. Broken windows, debris, even old toilets. But my eyes immediately caught on to something else. Something that wasn't trash. The wallpaper in the room. The wallpaper had a dandelion motif. Not exotic flowers like lilies or any kind of grand garden blooms that you might expect, just dandelions. A weed, really. And that detail really stuck with me, because in Scandinavian art history, the dandelion carries a powerful meaning. Dandelions are tough. They push up through cracks in pavements, stubborn and alive. But they're more than just weeds. Every part of the dandelion, the roots, the leaves, and the flowers can even make a simple country wine. It's a symbol of resilience, yes, especially in rural Denmark. So it makes sense that the original caretakers of this community center might have chosen it for their wallpaper. But there's something deeper here. Dandelions have actually long been a symbol of women's liberation and feminism in Denmark, particularly within the world of art and design. At a time when painting and craft were mostly considered men's domains, women were fighting hard for their place. One woman who stands out in this struggle is Bertha Wegmann. She studied art in Germany before returning to Denmark, and in 1887, she became the first female chair member of the Royal Danish Academy of Fine Arts. She was also on the board of the Art and Crafts School for Women, a crucial institution supporting women's artistic education. And yes, one of her paintings, held in a private collection, is a simple but striking arrangement of dandelions. The lot essay on that piece at the Christie's auction house here goes into some great details. So when I see these dandelions on the wallpaper here, it's more than just decoration. It's a subtle, beautiful nod to strength, to persistence, and to the women who fought to carve out a space for themselves in Danish art and design history. Now, it's impossible to know for sure whether the original building's caretakers selected this wallpaper to refer to female empowerment or if it's because they just enjoyed the aesthetic of it. We don't have a record to know for sure. I actually wrote my history thesis at TU Delft on women in Danish design history. So to me, that dandelion wallpaper was a sign and a reminder that women have always done incredible things despite the odds. I even started sketching them myself and incorporated my own little design into the coloring pages for a community co-design workshop. And I know this symbol will become a key part of some of the aesthetic choices in the building as the project progresses. As we went deeper under the layers of wallpaper in the Great Hall, I noticed something surprising. Beneath the wallpaper and layers of plastic paint, there were actually traces of murals done in lime paint. I can always tell when someone has painted plastic paint over lime in older Danish buildings. It might look fine for a few years, but inevitably the plastic will bubble and peel because it just doesn't breathe like lime paint does. In this case, that failure worked in our favor. It started to reveal some of the original motifs from the hall, possibly dating back as far as 1908. The oldest design we uncovered was a series of tulips, rendered in a surprisingly modern geometric style for that era. Then, by the staircase to the gallery, a grapevine stencil had been painted on top of it. This layering created what art historians call a palimpsest, a surface where older artwork is overpainted, but traces of the original designs remain visible, offering a layered visual history. These painted layers reminded me a lot of the process of Danish church fresco restorations. Denmark is especially rich in medieval church wall paintings, around 600 surviving examples, and this is some of the highest concentrations in Europe. Most were hidden under limewashed following the Protestant Reformation, and only rediscovered and restored during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Conservationist and painter Jakob Kornerup played a crucial role in these efforts, uncovering and restoring murals in about 80 Danish churches from the mid-1800s to the early 1900s. Take, for instance, Eskilstrup Church, built around 1130. Frescoes from the second half of the 13th century were uncovered in 1893 in the apse and chancel. They were later restored, including a significant restoration in 1942, revealing scenes like Joseph, Mary, and the donkey. So when I look at these painted layers in the Great Hall, I'm seeing the same kind of palimpsested history found in local churches. Layers of use, aesthetic change, and memory. But restoration always requires us to ask tough questions. Which period do we bring back? What stories do we preserve? Maybe a stenciled tulip isn't as historically significant as a 13th century fresco. After all, this building isn't heritage listed. But its painted layers, the materials, motifs, and geometric forms matter. They connect us to a tradition of storytelling through paint and breathability and materiality. That's why I hope to draw inspiration from these motifs, using lime paint, nature-inspired geometry, and eventually inviting local artists to design a new fresco or mural on these walls, rooted in this layered legacy and expressive of the Eskilstrup community today. When you think of a Danish kitchen, you probably imagine wood and white. At least that's what I've always pictured. White everywhere, white tiles, white cabinets, clean, neutral surfaces. My old apartment even had this standard issue white laminate countertop that drove me absolutely insane trying to scrub out coffee stains. But as I've toured old churches, manors, and even the Anna Anker house, I started to notice a different pattern. The old kitchens all had something in common. They all had bright blue walls. Suddenly, I was seeing blue kitchens everywhere, even in the iconic 1970s Danish TV series Matador, which explores Danish life in the 1930s and 40s. And that's where I have to introduce you to Madame Blå. She's not a character in Matador, she's the nickname for an entire line of cobalt blue enamelware, produced by Glue and Marstrand starting in the late 1800s. In the Matador kitchen scenes, the maids brew coffee in Madame Blå pots, and the kitchen itself has blue accents in the background. Durable, practical, and unmistakably blue, Madame Blå was the heart of many Danish kitchens for generations. Coffee pots, milk jugs, mixing bowls, all of these objects became part of the cozy rhythm of domestic life. Madame Blå is a strong contrast to Royal Copenhagen's porcelain, which also features blue, but in an entirely different flavor. Here, blue is about refinement, tradition, and centuries of craftsmanship. Each piece is hand-painted and marked with the painter's initials. a quiet brushstroke of pride, which really draws parallels to the Japanese Mingei traditions, where the artisan's identity is part of the object's soul. These layers of symbolism made me realize that blue carries deep significance in Danish interior culture. But there's another, more practical layer to this story. Traditionally, Scandinavians believed that blue walls help repel flies and insects, supposedly because they resembled water, which bugs tend to avoid. Now, the jury is somewhat out on whether that's actually true or just folk wisdom, but it is a detail that's stuck with me. Our community center has a kitchen. Right now, it's white, very white and brown, covered in sterile tiles that actually remind me more of bathroom walls than a kitchen. This kitchen was once essential for community dinners, post-confirmation gatherings, and family events. And it will be again. But we need to reimagine what this kitchen can be, not just functionally, but atmospherically. When we surveyed the hundreds of local residents, the overwhelming majority said that they wanted a cafe. A place to stop by for coffee or a snack, to knit, read the paper, or just have a quiet moment. And here we have the opportunity to create a cafe with real cultural and emotional depth. I believe that blue will play a central role in that. Saving Eskilstrup Kulturhus is not just about fixing broken walls or patching roofs. It's about uncovering and honoring the stories embedded in every corner of this building. From the resistant dandelion wallpaper to the layered palimpsest of murals, to the rich cultural significance of blue that will shape the heart of our future cafe. Every detail tells a story worth preserving. Restoration is a delicate balance between past and future. It's about choosing which stories to highlight, which symbols to revive, and how to weave new life into old spaces. As an architect, I believe that dreams must lead the way, even when the work feels overwhelming, because it's in these dreams that we find the courage and vision to turn our ruins into masterpieces. Eskilstrup Kulturhus will not only be restored, it will be reimagined as a place where community, culture, and creativity thrive, rooted in history, but alive for today and tomorrow. If you've enjoyed this glimpse into the renovation journey and want to support the project or get access to exclusive content, behind-the-scenes updates, and more, please consider joining our Patreon community. Thank you for following along on this journey, and see you around the neighborhood.